All right, let's go ahead and get started on problem 5. Let's go ahead and do this one together. This is our first composite figure in dealing with surface area. So if we're looking at this, what I see is that we have two figures coming together. We have a triangular prism here on top, and then we have a cylinder on the bottom, but we only have half of a cylinder. So let's go ahead and look at the triangular prism first to find the area of all the surfaces. Let's see what shapes we're dealing with. So the area of this front, that is a triangle, okay? And then there's also a triangle in the back. So we have two of those, and they're going to have the same dimensions. And then the other shape we're dealing with is this side here, which is a rectangle. And we have one rectangle on this side, and then we have another rectangle on this other side here. So we're going to have two places where to find the areas of rectangles. And I think that pretty much sums it up for the triangular prism. There is this base, but the base is covered up by this cylinder being attached, half a cylinder being attached to the bottom. So since that base is hidden, we are not going to, that is not a part of the surface. That is in the inner being of this figure. And then finally, we have what do we have? We have a cylinder here, but we only have half of a cylinder. And this cylinder is comprised of a half of a circle here, a half of a circle here, and then it's going to be, and then half of whatever, this shape would be a rectangle, right? Which is composed of the width and the length, which would be the circumference, but it's only going to be half of the circumference. So the area of that rectangle. So let's go ahead and get started with problem 5. It says Dexter is making a sculpture with the dimensions shown. What is the surface area of the sculpture? Use 3.14 for pi. So what I'm going to do first is just go ahead and find the area of these triangles, the front and the back. So I'm going to say area of triangle, front, and back. And do you guys remember what the formula is for the area of the triangle? You need to memorize it. The area of the triangle is area equals 1/2 base times height. Okay, now what is our base? Our base of this triangle would be right here. This is 10. Okay, that's what 10 is. So the base is 10. And then the height is this right here, which we can kind of look to the back, and we can see that the height is 12. So the height is 12 here for this triangle, which means it's also going to be 12 for this triangle. So the height is 12. And so we're just going to find the area. Area equals 1/2, the base is 10, times the height, which is 12. And oh, I forgot something. We're finding two of these, so we need to multiply this by 2. Right? Because there's a triangle in front and there's a triangle in back. So there's two of them. So this is the area of the triangle, 1/2 base times height, and there's two of them, so we got to multiply it by 2. So we have to do that same thing down here. Multiply that by 2. Okay? So let's just go ahead and get to work. So we're going to simplify this. 1/2 of 10 is a 5. So we have 5 times 12 times 2. And then you can really do this in any order. And I'm going to multiply, since we're all multiplying, I'm going to multiply the 5 times the 2, which is going to make that 10 times 12. And then 10 times 12, you just, whenever you multiply by 10, just add another 0 to that. And you get 120 inches squared. All right. So that is the area of the front and the back of that triangular prism, 120 inches squared. Okay, now let's go ahead and find the area of the sides, which is this rectangle shape. So area of triangle sides, and there's two of them, so we have to make sure we multiply it by 2 because there's two sides. So that's area equals length times width. Let's go ahead and see what the length is of this rectangle. Well, it looks like this is the length, and it's saying that this is 13. So the length is 13, and then the width is right here, is 5. Okay, so oh, and there's 2 of them. Why do I keep forgetting the 2? There's 2 of them, so we have to multiply it by 2. area equals 13 times 5 times 2. And with this problem, I'm going to go ahead and multiply the 5 and the 2 together first, which is going to be 10. So we have 13 times 10. Which ends up being 130. 130 inches squared for this rectangle and this rectangle, the two sides. Yeah, 130 inches squared. Perfect. Okay, let's go ahead and we're done with the triangle. We don't need to do that base, that bottom, because that's covered. It's not a part of the surface. So let's go ahead and start working on the cylinder and start with the circles. So the area of 2 half circles. Okay, so the great thing about having one half circle and another half circle, which are identical, means that we're just finding the area. A half and a half is equal to 1. So we're really just finding the area of one circle. So area equals pi r squared. And our radius is going to be, this is the diameter, that's 10. So our radius is going to be half of 10, which would be 5. And we just go ahead and substitute that into our formula. And we're going to use approximate because I'm going to write down 3.14 times 5 squared. And 5 squared is the same thing. 5 squared is the same thing as 5 times 5, which is 25. So the area is going to be approximately 3.14 times 25. Now, I don't know what that is off the top of my head, so I'm just going to go ahead and bring that little piece up here, 3.14 times 5. And we have 5 times 4, which is 20. Write the 0, carry the 2. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 2 is 7. 5 times 3 is 15. And then we have 2 decimal places here. 1, 2. So we're going to put those right there. And we have area is approximately 15.7. Oh. I'm sorry, I did it by 5, not 25. Oops. Let's just go ahead and start that over. Okay, my bad. 3.14, get rid of that. 3.14 times 25. That's what that says, not 5. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so 5 times 4 is 20. Write the 0, carry the 2. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 2 is 7. 5 times 3 is 15. And then we put the 0, and we have to go for the 2. So 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 3 is 6. We add these together. 0 plus 0 is 0. 7 plus 8 is 15. Write the 5, carry the 1. 5 plus 2 is 7, plus 1 is 8. And 1 plus 6 is 7. So there we have it. Count up the decimal places again. In the problem, there's 1, 2, which means in our answer there's going to be 2. Which means we are left with the area approximately being, that's where the decimal is going to go, 78.5 inches squared. All right, cool. So now we found the area of the 2 half circles. Now we just need to find the area of the rectangle portion of this, and it's only going to be half of that, right? So it's going to be area of half of the rectangle on the cylinder. That's like a lot to say. Okay. All right. So we know that the area of this rectangle part is going to be area equals length times width. Okay. Now the length portion, that is going to be the circumference of this circle. So 2 pi r, right? But it's only half of the circumference, so we have to divide this by 2. Okay? And then we have to substitute, what's our radius? Our radius is 5. We have that over there. So it's going to end up being 2 pi 5 over 2. Now what I really like about this was we have 2 divided by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And so this cancels out and becomes 1, and we're just left with 5 pi. So the length is equal to 5 pi, and the width is equal to 5. And so we just plug in those values. Area equals 5 pi times 5. I'm going to go ahead and say 5 times 5 is 25. So area is going to be approximately 25 times 3.14. And then 25 times 3.14, we just did that. And we already did that problem. 3.14 times 25 is equal to approximately 78.5. That was nice how that worked out. 78.5 inches squared. All right, now we are ready to find the surface area of this entire thing by just adding up the area of all these individual surfaces. So surface area equals 120 plus 130 plus 78.5 here. So there's the 120, there's the 130, there's the 78.5, and then there's the other 78.5. And then I'm just going to go ahead and add all those up right here. Remember, whenever you're adding decimals, you have to line up the decimals. 5 plus 5 is 10, write the 0, carry the 1. 8 plus 8 is 16, plus 1 is 17, write the 7, carry the 1. And then we have 3 plus 7, which is 10. And then 7 plus 2, which is 9, plus 1 is another 10. And 10 plus 10 is 20. So write the 0, carry the 2. And then 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 2 is 4. So there we have it. The surface area of the entire thing is 407 inches squared. All right, woohoo, that was a big problem. So, yeah, that's how you do those types of surface area composite figures. And we will, I hope you understand it, and I guess we'll just see you next time. All right, bye.